Boxing King Media in association with Boxro. Dominic Ingle with the famous Sheffield landmark as the backdrop, Meadowhall. How you doing, Dom?
Well, we're sat in Costa this morning. Actually this afternoon. It's a bit of a dark day for me because I had to stop drinking caffeine and go decaf, which kind of defeats the object of drinking coffee for me. But I think it's time to have a bit of an health kick and get rid of my last vice, which is caffeine. So yeah, we're in Costa Coffee, drinking decaffeinated coffee.
A free health tip for those that are watching. Dom, we're here talking about the couple of fights at the weekend. The main one, obviously, Tyson Fury. A lot of controversy around the fight when it got made, and obviously there was controversy on the night with the way the fight went on. So just want to ask you, I know you've seen the fight, so what was your initial feeling watching the fight as the fight was unfolding? What were you thinking?
Well, to be honest, it was apparent after a couple of rounds that realistically Chisora was well past his sell-by date. He shouldn't have actually been in that fight. And obviously there's a lot of controversy whether his corner should have pulled him out. But I think Tyson Fury did a better job of protecting Derek Chisora than his corner did. He just kind of started going steady on him, hitting him to the body. Obviously the fighters, and Tyson could have probably taken him out at any point. But he's not a horrible man. Tyson Fury is a boxer, he's a fighter, and he understands. And he probably realised that at that point as well, halfway through the fight, that Derek Chisora was absolutely no risk to him whatsoever, and kind of saved him a little bit.
There was obviously a lot of talk online as the fight was unfolding about what you've just said there. Tyson was started going to the body. It was quite apparent. Have you seen that happen before?
Yeah, look, you see fighters sometimes when they've got the other fighter on the point of a knockout and they're absolutely all over the place and they pull back. A lot of fighters do it. They don't give them the finishing shot, which is not needed. It does happen in fights, and maybe that's the way it should be. It's like there's no point beating somebody up who really is giving you no problems or no offence or no attack or whatever. There's no point. You might as well just keep popping away until the referee steps in. And probably the problem there was it was probably a combination of the corner and even the referee. I mean, Victor Loughlin's is an experienced referee, and once the fighter's getting outclassed, the referee has the ability, the authority to step in and say and wave it off. But I think because obviously he's supposed to be a big fight with Tyson Fury in. And they got to let it go on and justify why they're putting Chisora in with him. Well, you can't do that. This fight shouldn't really have been happening. I think everybody was talking it beforehand. It shouldn't be happening in this fight. It shouldn't be happening in this fight. But maybe Derek can reel back the years and put in a great performance. Well, it was apparent early on he wasn't going to do that. And realistically, to sit back and let it continue, he's not going to pull himself out. Tyson Fury's not going to say, I'm not going to hit him no more. It's up to the two people, or the two people responsible, the trainer and the referee, to make the decision for him. Because Derek Chisora, we all know, is a warrior. He's never going to say I quit. He's never going to quit. He either gets beat on points or he gets knocked out. You never see him quitting. So there has to be questions asked. Really, who's protecting the fighter?
Talking of that, there was a lot of criticism of Don Charles' trainer, and to be fair, Don's known Derek from since day one. They've got a really good bond together. Don felt like he was still fit to go. Your views and thoughts on that? Because like I said, Don has received a lot of criticism online.
Yeah, they've been together a long time. He started his career with Don Charles, but then you've got to remember he's had a lot of trainers since Don Charles has gone backwards and forwards. They've had fallouts. It's been well documented, and this is an issue what I have with fighters, that I've spent a lot of time with fighters over years, long careers, Junior Witter, Johnny Nelson, and you get to know him. Kell Brook, Kell Brook's gone with the trainers for one or two fights, but sometimes, and maybe in the case of Don Charles, is that sometimes you kind of lose a sense of reality with the fighter when you haven't been coaching them all those years. I coach fighters for a lot of years. You get to know them inside out, how they take the mental state, what they're capable of, what they're not capable of. And maybe the missing years where Don Charles wasn't training Chisora, some of the information that he had on Chisora, how he dealt with situations, has gone. And, read it wrong. And also maybe, if he had pulled him out, maybe Chisora would have kicked off with him. Maybe Chisora wouldn't have paid him Who knows what the situation is? But somewhere the judgment with Don Scholes has been impaired. You can't be looking at a fighter that you might have trained 3 years ago, was a much better fighter 3 years ago. I mean, I can't remember when Don last trained him before this fight. But look, he's getting old. I mean, he's actually, 34, 35. He's not particularly that old, but he's had a lot of hard fights, Derek. And we all know he's been in hard fights. We've seen him getting knocked out spark. So there's damage and there's wear and tear on the clock. And he's going in with the best heavyweight fighter in the world. Like, can't anybody see what could possibly go wrong here? It's not like, Tyson's a pushover. He can be vicious. Imagine if Chisora had got the call to fight Deontay Wilder, who's vicious and wants to knock everybody out. Imagine him getting on Chisora at this late stage and people saying, oh, that's a good fight. And him going out on a stretcher and that being the end of him.
Talking of that, Eddie Hearn did suggest 4 months ago that Derek would beat Deontay Wilder.
Rubbish. That's just a suicide. As my dad would say, that's a suicide mission. And you would never put an old guy like... And when I say old guy with Derek, I don't mean in years, because I think, like I said, I think it's 34, 35, maybe a bit older, 36. But as regards to miles on the clock, he has had a hard career in a lot of tough fights. He's provided a lot of entertainment for people. And realistically, somebody should have had the sense, to save him from the last few rounds and pull him out.
There's been a lot of talk of this picture that's gone viral online of Derek's face post-fight. What do you make? You've obviously seen fighters' facial damage over the years. What do you make of that, of what you've seen in past fights?
He's swelled, it's pumped up, it's a mess. You don't really see him like that after fights. I think even when he boxed Usyk, he didn't look like that. But Tyson's so accurate with that jab, just popping away. He's got a difficult jab to get past. So, Chisora just realised all his years in that fight. And I don't think it was even the best version of Tyson Fury. I think Tyson will have known and maybe just put 50% into that camp. Because I've worked with a lot of elite level fighters. They need the fear of God in them to train hard. Nazim Hamid just look at videos of fights he was going to box and think, I'll do that kid in 3 or 4 rounds. And sometimes he used to train accordingly, against Brendan's, training schedule. He used to try and do his own thing. And you've got to prepare for every fight like it's going to be the hardest of your career. And I don't think Tyson particularly will have prepared particularly hard for that fight, knowing that Derek wasn't a threat.
Interesting thoughts there, Dom. Just want to move on and talk about the other heavyweight fight. We nearly witnessed one of the biggest upsets in recent times. Daniel Dubois against the unknown South African opponent Lerana. I did watch a bit of Lerana the fight the week before, and I did suggest to a lot of people that this is actually a hard fight because he can fight. The issue was he was coming up from cruiserweight. What did you make of the 3 knockdowns in the first round? And also, in that question, if you can answer this myth about the 3 knockdown rule that people are going on about.
The 3 knockdown rule was in effect a lot of years ago, and certain organisations kept hold of it. And I think one of them was the WBA. But times have moved on, and from my understanding now, because I've done a lot of rules meeting with these guys, I haven't done a WBA one for a long time, but basically the IBF have a check weigh policy that you have to weigh the next day. If when a boxer fights, you have to weigh the next day between 8 and 10 o'clock in the morning, and you can only put on 10 pounds. In America, if you do that check weight the next day and you're outside of that time frame, you can still make the weight again. You can skip it off, you can run, you can make the weight, you can make the 10 pound limit. In England, you're not allowed to do that. The boxing board will not allow you to get the weight off from the check weight the next day. And I think it's the same with this 3 knockdown rule. We've got unified rules now where when we're in England, the WBC, WBA, WBO and IBF kind of all go with the same rules in a fight. And I think one of the rules is we don't have a 3 knockdown rule. I don't think the 3 knockdown rule is now allowed in England. It isn't. No, it's not allowed in any fight. No matter what the organisation is. I think that's the stipulation of the British Board of Control. At one time it was allowed in European title fights because I had fighters in European title fights when that applied to. But now it's all changed. So I don't think we have the 3 knockdown rule now in English boxing.
There was obviously the 3 knockdowns that Daniel did suffer, but he got back up. I think that the bell went 10 seconds early. I'm sure that's something you've seen numerous times over the years. And there's a myth on that as well. People seem to think it was done deliberately to protect the home fighter. Surely that doesn't happen.
You've got to remember with a fight, you've got an official timekeeper at the side of the ring, and you've also got the clock from the broadcaster. And what you tend to find within about 10-15 seconds, used to be anyway, the clock disappears off the screen, because how on earth is the timing of the broadcast going to be in line with the timekeeper? Because the timekeeper will take times out, the referee might take time out. So, people might say it gone early. It might have gone early on the broadcaster's clock, but the timekeeper. I used to be a timekeeper. I know these things. I used to be a timekeeper, and the referee will be telling you to take time out, stop the clock, and how you even do a count. So there's all these factors. So yeah, it doesn't really happen in boxing. It has happened because I was in a fight in Italy with Johnny Nelson, and he got caught with a shot, and the round went an extra minute nearly. So it does happen in some countries, but it very rarely happens in England unless somebody's got it completely wrong. And I don't think anybody, not an official, will put their neck on the line and ring a bell early to save a fighter.
Carl Frampton obviously was formerly trained by Shane Mcgugan. He made a comment about the 3 knockdowns, and he said Daniel was clearly concussed. Didn't know what was going on. For me, that looked like a corner who didn't have the fighter's best interests at heart. What do you think of them comments, and also the context of that as well? Did you think Dubois was still good enough to carry on?
I'll break that one down quite easily. There's obviously history between Shane Mcgugan and Cole Frampton, and that's still going on. So I would imagine whenever Cole Frampton can have a dig, he's going to have a dig. Now, when you're in a fight, you're getting hit with shots, you're not thinking, I got hit with a left hook, I got hit with a right cross, I got hit with a jab. You don't think those things, you just think you're getting hit. Now, I think even one of the commentators actually got wrong. He got hit with a left hook on the top of the back of the head, what disorientated him. It's one of the worst places to get hit. And he kind of lost his wobble. And then, apparently, he's twisted his ankle or done a ligament or whatever, which is, he's a big guy, he's carrying a lot of weight, and he's not got the thickest ankles or the thickest calves to support him. So he had a wobble on, and you know what? He did the right thing. Shane Mcguigan's coached him right. If you do not feel right, go down for a count, save yourself for the next round. So I look at it from a different aspect of Cole Frampton. I'm looking at it from a coach. He's been coached how to survive a knockdown. Some fighters aren't coached on how to survive a knockdown. He got through that round, and he ended up winning the fight by knocking the guy out. So who knows? Nobody can determine just because he's come back to the corner and said, what shot did I get hit with? That doesn't say that you've lost your memory, you've got concussion. It's just that you won't be thinking about that. It could be a number of shots. So I totally disagree with that comment. And he still had enough in the tank and enough about him to finish the fight and to carry on. Even he had enough sense to take a knee, because he didn't get hit with the shots when he took the previous the knockdowns after that. He wasn't getting hit. He just needed to regroup, and he regrouped and he came back and he won the fight.
He sure did, and he was conclusive the way he won the fight. I appreciate your comments on that, Dom. Is there much else you want to add or talk about?
No, like I say, it's been an interesting weekend of boxing. A couple of questions have been answered. Is Dubois going to cut it at the top level? Has Tyson Fury got the fight still in him? He's looking at Usyk, and they had a good face-off at the end. But Tyson Fury is a one-off, and you could see Usyk licking his lips. But I just don't believe Usyk will beat Tyson Fury, because the best version of Tyson Fury will turn up for Usyk, and I just can't see him, no matter how technical Usyk is and how elusive he is or whatever. Eventually, the biggest heavyweight of all time will eventually close him down and tire him out and beat him. That's my belief.
Well, I look forward to an in-depth breakdown of that fight if and when it happens early next year. Appreciate your time again, Dom. We have got, for those watching, we've got a special feature coming out with Dominic Ingle on Boxing Day. Please keep an eye out for it. Make sure you subscribe, because it will be worth the wait. It's very different to what we've been doing over the last few months. It'll be worth the watch.